We are continuing our series on advanced cybersecurity. And I know today's audience that's joining the call, a lot of you have IT experience, a lot of you are fairly technical. And today we will cover a lot of technical areas. But if you're an executive or someone who isn't technical, I still think you're going to get a lot out of it. Just know that some of the things we're going to be talking about may be rather technical. Just try to stay tuned and glean what you can from it. I think there's definitely some big lessons to learn on our topic for today. So my name is Neal Juern. I'm the CEO here at ScreenConnect. I'm joined by Larry Harris. He's our manager of our security operations department. Larry is also responsible for building a lot of the processes and systems that we're going to talk about today that are used in threat response. So a lot of knowledge that Larry will be bringing to our webinar today. This series is a continuation, and what we've covered so far is threat detection, threat prevention, and now we're talking about threat response. And so it's really the combination of all three of those things that make up a good cybersecurity strategy. Who am I? Why would you want to listen to us? My background came from enterprise IT. So I started in the enterprise world, worked for a nationwide law firm. I was the IT director, like a lot of you on this call. And I grew with that company from like 8 locations to 45 offices nationwide, built multiple data centers, learned a lot, and then brought a lot of what I learned in the enterprise IT world to that mid-sized and smaller company. So I've had the opportunity to speak at cybersecurity conferences across the nation. I've been in magazines. This is our passion that we have here at ScreenConnect. So also we've won several awards as a company. You're probably already aware of these, but it's just something we're proud of that we really work hard on. I'd say the thing we're most proud of is 0 significant data breaches with any of our clients in 5 years. And when we say significant, we're talking about major breaches. So we have had clients who didn't have MFA on their email, for example, who maybe their mailbox got broken into because they didn't want to go through the steps to turn it on. It's something we recommend with every client because it's still the #1 way that companies get hacked, but not every company is willing to make that shift. And so we've had some of those happen to us, to some of our clients. But other than that, we've had a pretty good track record. Our mission is to be a cybersecurity and IT services business that specialize in helping mainly mid-size and a little bit smaller companies that maybe have internal IT or they don't. And our goal is protect your data, enhance your workforce by taking on some of that load and helping those companies stay productive. That's the main thing. Is if a company can stay productive and survive all the cyber threats that are out there, then we've achieved our mission. We're going to provide you a link to this resource. This is something we've worked on over a few years. We've provided it to some other clients of ours, and it's called a data disaster kit, just a disaster planning kit. And really, it's got 3 things in it, or 2 main things, but there's 2 checklists. One is a disaster planning checklist, and part of that is a risk assessment, and then it's got some mitigation and planning strategies as part of that checklist. The second checklist is a business continuity checklist, and it's really just some simple questions to ask. Are you prepared if something happens to get back to work quickly? Do you have the right things in place? And then the second part of the planning kit is a full disaster planning guide. And really, it's the difference about the resources we provide is I've seen disaster planning, disaster plans that are like 100+ pages and tons of details, but most organizations don't actually effectively use those. When there really is a disaster, they don't go to that nth degree. So we've found there's this happy medium where we can provide you a kit that's easy to digest, that you can fill out, that you can then respond to and actually work from, and it'll actually help you in a disaster versus something that nobody ever really pays attention to. In our line of work, when large cybersecurity events happen, especially when they're in the news, our ears kind of perk up and we really tune in to see what were the clues and what exactly happened. So we kind of become like homicide detectives, and we do almost like a post-mortem, and we gather as many of the clues as we can to see what did they, what are the lessons learned? What did they fail on? Why did this breach happen? And we're actually going to get to sort of dissect one of those today, which I think will be really valuable to you guys. The one that we're looking at just happened February 21st, so very fresh. It's a company called Change Healthcare. Change Healthcare is owned by United Healthcare. United Healthcare happens to be who we use for healthcare, who are for our healthcare provider here at Seventech. So Change Healthcare is a subsidiary of theirs. They're really a technology company. They provide the services for claims. And the interesting thing about it is they process almost half of the claims in the United States. So this incident that happened, this hacking event, has had major implications across the entire healthcare industry. And we're going to dive in a little bit deeper on what exactly happened here. So let's take a look at this timeline. So this is all very recent. So February 13th, some independent researchers discovered a vulnerability in a tool, and it happens to be a tool we have here called ScreenConnect. And ScreenConnect, and we'll get into what ScreenConnect is and why it really is a good tool, but vulnerabilities happen, and vulnerabilities are found in software. And so on the 13th, an independent researcher found this vulnerability. They notified the company, which was great. They did the right thing. They notified ConnectWise. ConnectWise validated that, yes, it was an actual vulnerability. And they had a patch ready in only 5 days. So that's pretty quick, actually. A lot of these get turned into companies like Apple or Microsoft, and they'll take 30, 60, 90 days to get a patch ready. But ConnectWise turned that around very quickly. However, on the same day that they released the patch, and we actually applied the patch to our server, a proof of concept on how you could exploit that vulnerability was made available to the public. And 2 days later, Change Healthcare was hacked using that exploit. So this is what we've talked about on some of the previous webinars, is this time frame has gotten so compressed from the time and a vulnerability is discovered until the time it's exploited is so compressed that many times people don't have the opportunity to respond. Now, we're kind of hyperactive about it. So we actually, we applied that patch the day it was released. Our server doesn't actually, we don't use our ScreenConnect server the same way a lot of organizations do. They use theirs for connecting to all their clients. We just use ours for on-demand support. So there's really no servers, there's nothing in our ScreenConnect server to go and exploit or connect to. We only use it for a limited piece. But so here Change Healthcare is February 21st. They were exploited using this tool. And today it's easily the largest healthcare hacking incident in history. Change Healthcare is a $13 billion organization. And it's really crazy what's happening. If you look at this headline, smaller organizations like clinics, like pharmacies, a lot of them have not been able to file any claims. So what's happening is they're all running out of money. Basically, all these small healthcare organizations, they're doing work, they're submitting their claims to be reimbursed, and they're not getting paid. So they're running out of money. Some of them aren't making payroll. It's unbelievable an event. So if you have any medical things going on, in your own life personally, and you're wondering what's going on or why they're complaining, or maybe even asking you to pay cash, this is it. Here's the interesting thing. They haven't come out and said it, but it's already been traced that they paid the ransom in this case. They paid $22 million. The Bitcoin transaction was discovered, and the hackers are claiming that they did pay it. So it appears that way so far. Now, here's what's interesting. This is 10 days ago. Health and Human Services releases this letter because they're over all of healthcare in the United States. And what they said is, this is a significant, unbelievable breach. And they're basically calling on the private sector and the government to work together to help these little providers, healthcare providers, make payroll, which is interesting. They're just sort of saying, just do it. I don't know. They're not really offering how to do it, but they are just saying you just got to suffer through this, I guess. Change Healthcare has not gotten their systems fully restored. They keep extending the date out, but the latest is that they'll have them online by tomorrow, hopefully, for all of our healthcare workers out there, healthcare entities. Interesting thing about this article, though, was they provided a link, and on that link, what they were saying is, if you work in healthcare, you should have these cybersecurity measures in place to prevent becoming the next victim, is what they were alluding to. And so when I saw that, I was like, hey, this is great. I want to go see what they're saying. So this is it. And you can drill down into each of these categories for more information, but they basically provided two sets of goals: essential goals and enhanced goals. And what you can do if you're on their site is you can drill down into these. And I did a lot of them. I went and read, like, this is all a little bit general, the way they displayed it, but I read some of the details. And the interesting thing is all these things that they're describing here are great, and we recommend them. And most of our clients have these kinds of things already in place. What's surprising, though, is the things that are not on here that we provide to our clients as a regular course of business. So I'm going to show you some of those. This is a list of kind of generally what our services are. There's one that I will give them credit for. These yellow ones are all ones that we do that are not on their list. This yellow one, I will give them credit because they do mention vulnerability patching, but they don't specifically mention just general software patching. So obviously you got to patch your software no matter what. So I'll give them credit for that one, but they don't have any zero trust strategies. It's just all way too generic, and it's just not enough. I would venture to say Change Healthcare had most of the things on their list already in place, but that's not enough to stop it. So what is the way forward? And really, you got to look at, there's kind of 4 types of threat response you need to know about. The first one is early detection and monitoring. And so when a threat is occurring, you want to have the right monitoring systems in place so you can detect that the threat is happening and you can take action. The second thing you want is to hopefully have some automated security measures in place so that depending on the type of threat or the types of what we call indicators of compromise that are being shown to you as a security analyst, you want to have some automated things that happen, like maybe isolating systems, which is a great idea if the right threats are happening. So that's kind of the second way to respond. The first is make sure you're looking for the threats. Second is hopefully have some automated responses to that. Third thing is have some people that are skilled to look for these things. Not just your everyday person would know how to do this. There's definitely some training and things that you would need done in your internal IT departments to really look for threats and for them to get better at finding these things and really responding in a manual method. And then the fourth one is getting subscribed to threat intelligence information that's out in the world, and then responding to that. It may not be a direct threat on your company, but it's a threat that exists out in the world. And so by understanding those threats, sorry, I went too fast there. By understanding those threats, you can start to make plans. You can actually customize your tools to look for these new things. For example, the one with ScreenConnect, we patched it before it was made public because we were paying attention to the alerting, the threat intelligence information that was being put out in the public. Now, what are some critical action steps? And this is probably the big takeaway right here. If you're deciding, hey, I got to do something for threat response, these are the first things I would do. And that is, if an account is created in your environment, especially if it suddenly gets new escalated privileges, you got to have a method to detect that and disable that account. This happens a lot. In the hack we're going to talk about today, this might not actually have happened in the way that we normally look for, but Larry's going to kind of get into that. So what you're looking for is, say you have Office 365, suddenly there's a new global administrator in your list of global administrators. that's bad news if it's not someone in your organization and nobody knows why it's there. So you got to be able to detect that, and you got to be able to take action against that to disable it, and then look for, how did that happen? Like, how do we go and shut off this threat in this, right away? Second thing, which is super powerful, is to be able to monitor threat activity and isolate systems. Not only isolate them, but you can also do something called lockdown. Not every tool has this lockdown feature. Some of the tools we do have this lockdown feature. What lockdown does is more than just virtually remove the machine from the network where it can't compromise other systems. When you choose lockdown on a system that's using Threat Locker, actually, that system can't even harm itself. No processes are able to run except just the things that you would need as the person in threat response to see what happened. And that's really important, is having a way to isolate systems. Third thing is check for correlated data to understand what this whole attack vector is. If you found one machine that's been compromised, chances are there's other things that have already happened that led up to this point. So you want to kind of pick your head up and look around and say, what else is going on? What other indicators of compromise do we have that we need to respond to? And then the fourth one, if your systems are set up in a way and that you have isolated a system either automatically or manually, then you want to go study it and look at what happened and how do you mitigate that threat right then. So that's kind of, this isn't all you need to do, but this is the highly recommended critical action steps that we would recommend you take to prevent a threat from becoming a much bigger threat. So as we think about what has just happened February 21st to Change Healthcare, we're going to kind of take you through what we would call the anatomy of an attack. And when we do this, we are speculating on some of how we think this happened. We already do have some clues. We're going to take those clues and then we're going to apply the knowledge that we have so that you can sort of get behind the scenes of how we think this actually happened and where did they fail, right? And I don't want to be too critical of anybody, but there are obvious failures, many checkpoints that were not, that the attackers got through and no one detected it and nobody shut it down. And now it's the biggest breach in healthcare history. So how did that happen? And so we're going to really kind of dive into that. Larry's going to talk about some of this, and then he's also going to show you the tool that was actually exploited and how this kind of all took place. So Larry, if you would, we'd love to learn more about how this happened.
Absolutely. So for Change Healthcare, it's assumed that they were using the ScreenConnect tool or had an IT company managing their systems for them using ScreenConnect. And the way that this vulnerability works is it's not something where you have to download a piece of malware or click on a suspicious link. It's just the fact that the software exists and the nature of how technicians access it through a web interface. There's actually a flaw in the way that the web interface processes commands, and it allows malicious attackers, as well as anybody who can see the web page, to go in and create their own admin accounts. ScreenConnect is used by many thousands of people, and you can connect to 30, 40, 50 different systems at a time per person. And it gives you privileges of the user as well as system level control of a machine. And this does not need to prompt the user either when you are on the machine or if you're operating in backstage mode as well. And ConnectWise is a great company. They went through a very small patch window to get this fixed. The larger any company is, the more vulnerabilities will be exploited and taken under the microscope essentially to really find what the security flaws in it are.
Great. That's a
So
great description there, Larry. Larry, why don't you just show us, and I'll stop sharing for a second, what ScreenConnect even looks like and kind of the power that you just described, because it's pretty Unbelievable, actually. Here we go.
So what we have here is a ScreenConnect demo. I am connected to a user's desktop. And from here, what I can do is I can do anything I would like to. I can log in as the user. I have full functionality of the computer. But where this tool gets a little scary if it gets into the wrong hands is if you switch into what we call backstage mode. So backstage mode, there is no user interface. And if I do a simple command, I am system. I'm running as the NT authority. I'm running as Windows itself. ScreenConnect has the ability to run at the same privileges as Windows. And I can do something as easy as net user add, and we'll call this hacker, and we'll add a simple password. And now if I look at the list of users, I've added my own account to this system. And I could go further and add it into the administrator groups. And now, even though I already have system level access, now I have a user account. So I can poke around even further in a different way. One of the things that we can also do is we can check to see if anything's actually running on the computer. Is somebody connected to this? Are they browsing the internet? We can do anything in the command line. And where the tool gets even more interesting is I can open up the registry, I can go into your hardware registries, and I can make new keys and new values, and I can set things up that weren't there before. So we can modify these sorts of things, and we can make as many as we want. So this is how software interacts with your computer. It's how things are managed. So we can do a lot just through the registry, but we can also edit your firewall through the back end. We could make new rules to allow our computers to connect to this system specifically. And we can even do something as simple as opening up the File Explorer. So if we open up the File Explorer, I can see all the users' folders. Oh, there's an admin folder. Let's see what's in their desktop. There's a finances document. I'm just going to copy that. And now I can put it on my system. And we could take that even further using the send and receive files. So I could set up a receiver. We'll cancel this.
And I think I know where you're going with this, Larry. You're talking about data
Yeah.
exfiltration, right?
Exactly. So now I can just go in and, I could select any number of folders that I want. If we had, I could copy the whole users folder out. And this is all without anything actually appearing on the screen of whatever computer this is connected to. So we have full functionality. And in reality, you're not only using ScreenConnect for one computer. So if I would like to, instead of taking files, I can put malicious files there. I can edit the registry to make my malware look like a normal Windows piece of software like Word or anything like that. I can go in and clear the event log to make it appear as though no changes have been made on the system, and then I can just move on to the next one. So through this, we're able to complete various tasks. We can make new users. We can probe different systems. We could do pings. We could ping to see if other things are alive, like networking gear, transverse into those. We could turn these into command and control computers where everything that's connected to ConnectWise is now part of my command and control infrastructure, and it can be used to attack essentially what it's meant to protect.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to the point of, with great power comes great responsibility. And the beauty of ScreenConnect is that it does allow IT professionals so much power to get their job done. But at the same time, if a tool like that is exploited, it can actually be very devastating. So the only way forward really is to have a lot of different security layers. And I know that's something you were going to talk about, as well as just the vulnerability in general? You kind of touched on this already.
Yeah, so this vulnerability, it's a 10 out of 10 on the CVSS score system. CVSS score system, it's essentially a way to score things on how dangerous they are to production. This one for 2024, essentially allows you to run a script against a website that hosts ScreenConnect and make new administrator accounts. So you can now log into the tool with full privileges and control all of the machines in the instance. And if you look at previous vulnerabilities, these are all from ScreenConnect. These are all high profile vulnerabilities, but the one from 2020, it's another authentication bypass. It's a very similar vulnerability. It was operated in a different way, but it just goes to show that whenever you're in the software development trade, there's always going to be one thing that you might have missed or that you introduced in a later version, and you're going to need to implement some sort of patching. And they've patched all of these vulnerabilities, and even software like Windows 10 and 11, as widely known as they are, there's still new vulnerabilities every month that comes out. There was a high level CVS score for Windows 10 just a little while ago that allowed full takeover of the computer, and that was in 2024 at the beginning of the year. But next patch Tuesday, it had already been fixed and it goes and moves forward. So the more surface area your software company has, the more likely people are going to try to break your tools. And just because something doesn't have vulnerabilities associated with it doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means it hasn't been made a priority to that community yet to go and attempt to exploit these.
That's a good point. And sometimes we think, hey, I'm using a smaller software vendor, lesser known. And you're right, it's just no one has made it a priority to find out what vulnerabilities exist yet. So tell us about this the cyber kill chain here, Larry.
Sure thing. This is Cyber Kill Chain. This was developed by Lockheed Martin, very prevalent in the defense industrial base and cybersecurity in general. It's a seven-step chain to show how attackers take over systems. They'll perform reconnaissance. They'll see what the scope of your business looks like on the internet. They will take that reconnaissance and turn it into their attack plan or weaponize it. They'll attempt to get it to you. They will attempt to have you run an executable, click on a link so they can exploit your machine. And then they'll attempt to get installation. And if we're talking cloud infrastructure, different forms of persistence. But if it's on your computer, they're generally going to try to install some sort of malware to then command and control your machine. They want to be able to log on to it whenever they want. They want it to be able to run commands when they want and exfiltrate data. And then number seven, it depends on what kind of business you are, on what the objectives that they will have. Are they going to try to ransomware your company? Are they going to try to steal your information? Are they just going to try to turn everything off and keep it off? Or are they simply performing espionage if it's a high level nation state attack and just steal information over time? Or if you even have patents under review and those sorts of things, they're just attempting to complete their mission, and it might be completely different based off what your organization does.
That's a very valid point. Is no two attacks may look alike, right? So it's like casing a business that they're going to rob, and it might come through the side door, the back door. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different motivations for why they might do it. So tell us about this, Larry. Kind of explain, this is our hypothetical, how we think this attack happened.
Absolutely. So we know the ScreenConnect vulnerability, it's very easy. It takes a matter of seconds. So as soon as the proof of concept was out there, the team believed to be responsible for this attack is known as Alpha V or Black Cat. They're a very well-known cyber gang, and they steal or essentially ransom millions, if not hundreds of millions per year from many different companies. And they just have lists available to them of their targets, what services are exposed to the internet. And as soon as something like a ScreenConnect vulnerability comes out, They just look through their list and then they go and exploit that. So we believe they exploited the ScreenConnect vulnerability. They performed reconnaissance of all the machines tied to the ScreenConnect. So they basically looked and saw, what are all the servers, where are all the desktops, where are all the, where's all the critical information actually being hosted. So they move on to those critical applications. And for Change Healthcare, there's card processing infrastructure for payment. There are API backends for all of their web portals for the physicians as well as the clients. And then once they have that information, since ScreenConnect already allows system level access, they skipped through a lot of the steps in the cyber kill chain from previous and really went from 1 to number 6. So they did their reconnaissance, they exploited it, and now they already have all the access that they need. And now they're exfiltrating whatever data they want. So card information, health information, social security numbers, or private patient information, all forms of data that Change Healthcare could have collected. And then we believe, since Change Healthcare hasn't come back online yet, they might be in the process of remediating all the encryption from ransomware. So when your company is ransomwared, they will take all of your data, they will send you a piece of it to show you that they have it, and they will encrypt all of your systems until payment has been made, and you can essentially unencrypt all that data, which may take a very long time. And then we know, because a very well-known AlphaV wallet was recently paid $22 million, that they did receive some form of payment for an attack recently that we believe is tied to Change Healthcare. So Change
Yeah.
Healthcare may have paid that, and they're attempting to roll back through all of the ransomware, and then at the same time ensure their system security is much higher. Otherwise, they'll be a target for the same kind of attack.
Yep. And one of the motivations sometimes, especially in healthcare, for why they would pay the ransom is to try to get the hackers not to release patient health information, because that just opens up a whole nother huge liability for them. So that could have been their main motivation for paying it, unfortunately. In our view, we'd like to see it where no one ever pays it, because it's just grown into this massive industry because people are paying. But you kind of can understand if it happened and they're trying to prevent patient health information from being leaked to the internet, that they took that step. So here's where I wanted to talk just a little bit about ScreenConnect and ConnectWise as a product and a company. They make good products, and just because they had this potential vulnerability like Larry described doesn't mean that they're just making software with tons of vulnerabilities. That list that we showed you, yes, there were several, but that's over years, and so they were very quick to patch it, and it's the unfortunate truth, and really, and Larry's going to talk about some of the solution here in a minute, but you can't just assume or rely on patching only. You have to have a lot of other security layers to prevent these kind of things. So ScreenConnect provides a much needed service to the IT community, IT professionals like us. Up until middle of last year, it used to be our primary tool for connecting to all of our clients. We moved away from it because we had another tool, and we liked how this other thing integrated, and we liked how the security worked on it. But up until last year, it was our primary tool. Now we actually take steps to add security around it that a lot of other companies don't. But it's a very valuable piece. It's just unfortunate that they had it directly connected to the internet. They didn't have the other security layers in place, and the hackers saw an opportunity and they took it. So talk to us a little bit about the solution here, Larry. How could they have prevented this, do you think?
Absolutely. The answer is always going to be a multi-layered security solution. For a company like that, there's so many different pieces moving around that you can't have a simple security strategy. You need to dissect each portion and protect your data wherever it's applicable. And sometimes that'll require overlap or completely separate services. No single application will ever be able to give you everything you need in terms of protection. And when something like a ScreenConnect 0-day proof of concept is exploited in the wild, just as important as the security layers that you need the appropriate security logging layers as well. So you're going to need advanced logging and alerting, and you're going to need to be proactive and reactive depending on the incidents. We would love to be proactive about everything that comes out, but just like this vulnerability shown us, sometimes you'll need to be on the defense and react to what's happening in front of you. Uh, First couple of things, just the way ScreenConnect's hosted, you can put antivirus on the server that's hosting it, and you can implement logging. So one of the things that we believe could have been in place was logging for ScreenConnect to show when new accounts are being made. If you're either internal IT or even a software company or an IT company, you don't have that many new users that require full admin level privileges inside of a tool this strong. So getting an alert whenever you hire somebody or whenever you remove somebody from the administrators group, you can just have your team quickly check off that that was a legitimate action. And in cases like this where it's not, you can go in and at that first layer of intrusion, you can say something's wrong. We need to remove this account. We need to patch our server. You can take logging a step further from collection and correlation. You can go to orchestrated responses to logs. If someone's putting malware on your computer, you can automatically remove that before it's being ran. A couple of solutions that do this very well is Threat Locker. Threat Locker will allow you to only whitelist what are your trusted applications, and then there's CrowdStrike. If something happens to get through your system, or maybe there's a folder that allows it to be ran, or you have a development team that has a lot of, things they need run, this will inject itself inside of the process and say, this application, I don't have a rule for it, but the actions it's taking are definitely malicious. So I'll go ahead and stop that. Threat Locker and CrowdStrike have system isolation. They work slightly differently. And for each incident response case, you might need to use one or the other, but you can use them in tandem as well, just to lock down the systems from the rest of the network. One thing that you definitely want if you're in a sensitive compliance industry is file integrity monitoring. If you have healthcare patient data, or if you have credit card information stored in your organization, you're going to want some sort of integrity monitoring to tell you who is accessing when, where, and how all of those different files that you're storing. Otherwise, you're looking at, compliance breaking contracts with in whoever your card issuers are, or HIPAA violations and such, and you want the ability to lock those files. And one of the
Right.
next parts, or the last parts, is going to be a network operations center. You want to have that in place for a long period of time so you can show what your network activity looks like on a day-to-day basis. So if something were to ever happen, and say somebody's stealing hundreds and hundreds of gigs of data from your computers, you can just very clearly look at that and look at the trend from the past couple of weeks and say, these servers are sending out an awful lot of data to these very specific IPs. That looks a little bit weird. Let's investigate that, or even go a step further with the orchestrated response and say, let's block those IPs until we can figure out what's happening in there. So every layer of this attack, there's an opportunity to inject logging, as well as proactive and reactive pieces to the puzzle that could have stopped this in multiple different places. When you're up against a group like Alpha V, it's very hard, but seeing what happened, there should be some additional security layers being made at Change Healthcare.
Yes, and again, I'm not here to just criticize Change Healthcare because there's no perfect prevention like Larry just described, but there were things that just were not in place for whatever reason. And really, it kind of comes down to this, like Larry said, the ScreenConnect application has an alerting feature anytime a new account is created. So the very beginning of this attack, the way we speculated to be was that they exploited the vulnerability and they created a ScreenConnect account, and someone should have at least been made aware of that. Second thing is the data loss prevention, like Larry described. Especially if you're in something like healthcare where you have patient health information, you got to be monitoring that and seeing if that data is being, suddenly, like Larry said, your network is sending all this data to some random IPs. You got to be aware of that. You got to be able to receive alerts and investigate on those. And also having a tool that can really block malicious applications is very important. It's just why we don't just rely on a tool like ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a great tool because we're whitelisting what we want to run and blocking everything else. But what if someone accidentally approves something that is malicious? Or what if the hackers are just what we call living off the land, and they're just using tools built into Windows itself, and ThreatLocker thinks those are okay? So you can't just rely on one tool. It's the layers that make the difference. They didn't seem to notice that there was, this anomalous network activity. That was a mistake. They didn't restrict access to the tool in the first place. At least we don't think they did, because someone randomly was able to log into their ScreenConnect server. In other words, they didn't put any additional security around it. And they didn't really have any rules that set off alarms that said, hey, this is weird. Why are these things connecting to us from some other location? So again, these are our thoughts based on our expertise, but it's obviously a very devastating attack. It's one that will go down kind of in the history books, but there were just a lot of things missed here. And you as a business, you can do so much better than they did, with just some help, just some good guidance. You can put layers in that will help you survive way better than they have. So it's an interesting time in our industry where these attacks are just accelerating, and unfortunately every year is setting a new record for cybercrime. And so we have to be nimble. All of us have to be nimble. We all have to be preparing ourselves for how do we do better? How do we detect, how do we prevent? How do we respond to the latest attacks? And so none of us can sit still. We all have to kind of be looking at what's the next thing, and where do we make that next improvement. I would recommend you download this. It's not incredibly long like a lot of these tools are. We tried to really make this concise so you get the most value out of it. And just go through those first two checklists at the beginning, and that's going to tell you a lot about how well prepared you are and what changes you might need to make in your environment to be prepared to detect, prevent, and respond to an attack. And then if you need anything from a cybersecurity perspective, if you just need a consultant to look at your organization and give you a free assessment, we do those. We also do business continuity meetings where we'll talk to you about, what if this happens? What if that happens? Are you prepared? And again, we do that for free. We know a percentage of the people we talk to will become clients, but our goal is just to make a difference in the industry and really add value to every company that needs help. With that, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We enjoy doing these, and we thank you that you spent some time with us today. And we hope to hear from you, and stay safe out there.